This is part 5 of the video series explaining an alternative property development model as an intervention to service the South Africa Economic Recovery Plan relating to local inclusive economic development. Part 5 delves into the concept of ownership and community. Let us look at some of the rights and obligations of ownership. The effects of COVID, together with the ongoing political question of land, makes us reconsider the rights and obligations of private ownership because it has become clear current systems have failed poorer communities. Obligations for private ownership could in fact be extended quite easily to help remedy the effects of future COVID-like pandemics. In each of these projects, an obligatory business entity and community support entity in each project would systematically reduce emergency action necessary by government in the event of future similar outbreaks. And the effects of such an inclusion would be felt at an increasing rate as each project proliferates into new projects, and over time these effects, positive effects, would embed into the fabric of society, positively influencing the lives of entire communities. Where does something like this begin? Well, it begins with one, and using COVID as an example, one flight landed in South Africa in March 2020 with the first infected person, and from then exponential transmission infected more than 800,000 people in just 9 months. And this is because of the R value of the virus. Similarly, projects with an R value of 2, as we've described previously, can change the nature of communities in a positive way, and they can do it very quickly. One pilot project to start with its components for exponential mentoring training and new project identification, will create the property cooperatives, and that will proliferate the spawned micro projects throughout the country. Each one of those designed to duplicate virally. So it begins with one, and if you build in that R value, great things can happen. Creating or extending the obligations of ownership within a project is not difficult. Each main project must have a beneficial component that's tangible, visible and long-lasting and benefiting a community, and these things can just be written into the rules of ownership for the project. Now, depending upon its nature, that obligation and that component may be of different nature, different types. Number one, it could be primarily for the use of owners within a project, but also available for emergency use by the external local community. Or that benefit within the project might be of a specialized use. It might be a specialized facility that's primarily for the use of the external community, but available to the owners within the project. Or 3, it could be any other beneficial feature that might be deemed appropriate by the community, by the project team and by the local authority, depending on the area and the region and what the needs of that community are. This is very flexible, and it's also an exciting area that carries with it endless possibilities that can be achieved just by writing in the rules of ownership. Here are some examples that might fall into these two categories. First of all, there's the category 1, which is benefits that are primarily for the owners but are available for external use in emergencies. There's a communal food garden. We're going to talk more about that in part 6 of this video series. There could be an external garden, a verge garden with the consent of the local authority, just for passers-by. There could be a a borehole water facility that's mainly for the primarily for the owners and to service water to the buildings within the complex, but also it could be tapped to the outside for emergency use for people passing by. Primarily for the owners, there could be a small food producer, could be a small bakery or something similar. There are many things that could fall within this category, and as time goes on, all of these things will emerge. Category 2 is things that are primarily for the use of external people, the community at large, but can be used also by the owners, by the internal owners. This could be a small-scale temporary residence facility for things like child trauma recovery, women and child shelter for abused women. Big topic now all over the country, and I'm sure there's shelters needed. It could be a facility for physically disabled people, rehabilitation, injured children. Could be a childline support facility. There could be within that centre facilities for physiotherapy, counselling, all these different kinds of maybe ancillary medical services, and all of these things come together to serve the local owners within the complex and also the community at large. And there's many things that can be provided once you get the idea of they can be built into the project from the beginning and planned in so that they work and they become reality. As a demonstration of those examples, look at the Amanzimtoti project and look at the community benefits and the business benefits that could be built into that project. On lot 17, there are many business activities that could be owned by local people. There's a hotel, a casino, entertainment centre, shopping, and then the property co-op that binds it all together. On Rem of 18, where the residential sections are, there's a food garden, there's a borehole facility already identified in there, and then there's an amenity building on the south side. Now that amenity building could be for many different things. What I've shown here and on the following slides is just as an example, an idea of what that could be. So I chose for this example a shelter for abused women and children. This is a huge topic all around the country, and I'm sure small secure facilities would be welcomed all over the country in little pockets in safe environments like this one. So the Amanzimtoti project could provide a shelter and a facility for 8 families. So secure units with a woman and some small children. It could have 8 units, 50 square meters each, completely self-contained with its own dining, living area, bedroom, kitchen, everything that would need to make that area safe and for rehabilitation of that little family group. And people could stay here for a month, 2 months, or whatever's determined by the social workers. This would be a 2-story building. There'd be 8 units, 4 on each level, and each floor would have a utility room. At the top level, which is a more private area, that utility room could be restricted for the usage of the families that are in shelter, and the one below could be similar but used for the general people that are owners within the complex. So this would be a dedicated utility for use of families during this rehabilitation period, and open access from here to the main complex where there's normal life going on. This all assists in the readjustment of those people into a situation of normalcy. The lower story of that same building has another utility room, and that's shared with the complex owners, and this is for a reintegration of the families and the children into normal community. Provision of a safe environment within a community that's got a good social program could have a very positive effect, especially on the young children. And the duration of stay could be determined by the social workers, maybe a month, maybe 3 months. This is something like this is really needed, and it doesn't have to be isolated. If it's part of a project and it's supported by the project from the outset, it can all be built in there, and it alleviates a lot of responsibility from government. It brings it back into the community, and this is a reintegration process. The lower level of that facility, below the parking, at the level of the gardens, would be a small medical facility where there could be the therapist, dietitian, a nurse on call there, a small medical room, about 70 square meters, and this will be a medical support facility with open access to the gardens and a natural environment surrounded by trees, in this case within overlooking a demos area. The people in the shelter could participate in the food garden program, and access could be given to the children into the complex where there's a creche, a library for them to read, and play areas, and all of these things would be really highly beneficial to a traumatized family. Within a project, all of these things can take place if it's planned in from the beginning and the relevant zonings are modified, because this is all about planning and having the flexibility in the zoning and land usage programs. They have to be changed to accommodate things like this. So when we look at the effects of private ownership on community, exclusion need not be a consequence of ownership. There is no reason why facilities of this nature may not be integral in a part of every project. It can be that way if we make it that way. And if they are part of the plan, then it will happen. This model shows that inclusive development can be achieved by creating the set conditions that are conducive to that outcome. And those conditions need to be set from the beginning. And the bottom line is there are no unsurmountable obstacles to the implementation of this model at municipal level.